Right, welcome back, and going ahead with our discussion of our topic today, let me here welcome our guest, Engineer Sherin and Naggar, International Shipping and Transportation Consultant. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed for having me.
And reading into a success that we have seen or during the past 6 years ago, and through many of the mega projects that have been taking place, through the quantum leap we've seen in the urban developments, transforming the region with mega tunnels, floating bridges, connecting the two banks of the canal. How did you read the ongoing developmental projects that went on throughout the past period?
In regards to the Suez Canal, this is definitely a very positive sign. And if you talk about how long it took to build or dig the parallel canal, it took a miraculous time. And yes, this actually has been stated very clearly when the Chamber of Shipping, International Chamber of Shipping delegation visited the canal 1 week before the inauguration. And they all agreed, all the members have agreed that what happened in the Suez Canal over 11 months is an engineering miracle by all standards. Mm-hmm. And well, if the Egyptians can build the pyramids 7,000 years ago, I don't think there's no reason for us not to be able to do it in 11 months. This is one thing. The other thing is that we have to realize that the Suez Canal is the backbone of the Egyptian economy. Mm. To give you an example, when tourism is dead on account of terrorism or accidents or whatever, Suez Canal is still there. When we have a problem with gas exploration and shortage of oil, the Suez Canal is still there. Mm. When we have a problem with weather and our agricultural crops are affected by weather conditions, the Suez Canal is still there.
Let me here just shed light, before we continue on with this issue, just shed light on the timing of the construction of this canal. The circumstances that was surrounding us during that period, because that was also significant, and also that it was established with the money of the Egyptians.
Well, first, the Suez Canal expansion program, or the paralleling of the Suez Canal.
Yes.
First, it should have consumed a good 3.5 to 4 years.
Yes.
It has actually consumed 11 months, because the trials, the shipping trials, were actually conducted exactly 11 months after the president gave the go for the project. This is number one. So as far as engineering and production is concerned, power is concerned, definitely it is a very positive thing. The second thing is, what has the Suez Canal contributed? It has contributed a great deal. For a start, this project has been financed by the Egyptian people, and I think the Egyptian people who have contributed in financing this by buying shares or buying stocks in the project, I think they all got their interest plus their principal money back, and the Suez Canal has already paid back for the entire cost. So the book value of the Suez Canal is one Egyptian pound as it stands now. So it's all written off. Now, number three, what has the Suez Canal contributed to the world? If we look at the majority of canal transits, it is mainly container ships. Container ships are working by the hour. They operate on windows. So, for example, if I'm coming from Paris, I'm going to the port side and then transiting the Suez Canal, I have to go to Jeddah. I have to arrive on a window. That window, say, is midnight on Friday, and I have to leave by 7 a.m. on Saturday, or something around that. It's normally about between 11 and 12 hours port stay in containers. Now, if I save 11 hours to on the canal transit, which is what is happening now, I'm saving him an extra port call. He will make more money by going to that extra port than the Suez Canal will make on tolls. So it is really the generosity of the Egyptians is reflecting very much on the container carriers. This is another thing. The third thing is that the Suez Canal Authority has been implementing the long-haul principle. The long-haul principle means that if there is a comparative destination that the Suez Canal, for example, if you're originating from area A and going to area B, and you can either use the Suez Canal or use an alternative route, the Suez Canal will negotiate with the owners of that particular ship or that particular line to say, okay, fine, how much are you saving? You're saving, say, X $1,000. All right, fine, I'll give you that saving in rebate, but come through me. And he will come through the Suez Canal. Now, coming through the Suez Canal is not meaning that the Suez Canal is throwing away money. Quite to the contrary. The Suez Canal is using the principle of saying, no, I am getting money which was not coming. Little as it may be, or maybe it's not exactly the amount that the ship should pay. I'm giving him a rebate because he will not be coming anyway. So I'm attracting him. And this is imminent these days, especially because of the very volatile price of fuel going around the Cape. Another thing which has been very positive by the Suez Canal Authority, the international crewing crisis at the moment. Because of the coronavirus, a lot of seafarers are stranded on ships. No country will allow them to be disembarked and change crew, to exchange their jobs. So, according to the International Chamber of Shipping, there is over 750, 800,000 seafarers who have gone over their contract dates. This is becoming more, not just a commercial issue, it's becoming a humanitarian issue. Several cases of suicide have been recorded because people are not able to go home, they are sick, they are depressed, and so on. So several cases of suicide have been recorded. When the International Chamber of Shipping communicated with the Suez Canal Authority, and this subject was raised, and I say that in confidence because I witnessed that conversation, the Suez Canal Authority, inside 2 hours, had received all clearances from the Egyptian government and the Egyptian top management that every possible support should be given to release that humanitarian crisis to the best of our ability. Today, the Suez Canal Authority is a major, or the Suez Canal rather, it's a major crew exchange hub in the world, not just in Egypt. This means that we are exchanging crew, we are observing the coronavirus restrictions and precautions, we are very careful, and at the same time we are serving the international maritime community in a most efficient way. We are observing in the Suez Canal transit or crew change, they are observing 3 things. They are observing IMO regulations, which the IMO has set up standards for crew change, and we are observing the International Chamber of Shipping regulations, who have also put in a standard, and we are observing the Egyptian standards to protect our own people. There are certain procedures that if we follow the 3 procedures, the Suez Canal Authority is following all 3 procedures to the dot. And you can see, even from the infection levels of COVID-19 in Egypt, despite of that massive, or rather extensive crew change, there is not that much infection, there is not much increase of the in cases of COVID-19 on a daily basis.
Thank God. We'll explain that because I'm very much interested into saving a port that you spoke about, and I need really to clarify that more during our episode. But also here, let me take our conversation to the geographic strategic location of the Suez Canal and the extension or the new parallel canal. And the political leadership and then had this strategic vision for such an area in order to maximize the benefits of this geographic location. How far was this evident through this project that was made?
The Suez Canal as a waterway is a service provider. But alongside the banks of the Suez Canal, there is the economic zone, which is stretching on 3 locations, being East Port Side, Ismailia, and the Suez Gulf, or north, as they call it, northwest Suez Gulf, mainly Sokhna area. And it has divided the way of implementing the activities, where you have, for example, in Sokhna, you have the heavy industries like iron and steel, you have cement, you have fertilizers. This is the heavy industries, this is the capital-intensive industries. On Ismailia, you have more like the pharmaceuticals, like the
petrochemicals. Yes.
Petrochemicals are more also towards the Suez side of things. Ismailia has a very unique location because it's close proximity of Mid-Sinai, and in Mid-Sinai there are many herbs which are used for for pharmaceutical industries, and they have proven over the years to be very effective. So I think the utilization of Ismailia as a pharmaceutical herb plantation will be the more, in my opinion, I could of course be wrong, but this will be the more evident type of thing, especially that some of these herbs are known to cure very serious diseases which so far are called or believed to be incurable, either partially or totally.
We're speaking here about an industrial area, an industrial zone,
right,
that is in order to maximize the benefit of this location.
Right.
But we're also speaking about this area as a hub, as a logistic hub.
Right.
So how do you view that? And you here differentiated between the heavy industries in an area, the less heavy industries in other areas in the same location. How about this area as a logistic hub that serves?
Well, I think we are all misunderstanding the concept of logistics. Logistics is a service that is rendered to industry or to a trade. So if there is no industry, there is no logistics.
Definitely.
What is logistics going to serve? So the idea is not so much, the logistics comes along with the industry. If you call, for example, a car manufacturer, and he is importing completely knocked down cars, as they call them, CKDs. The CKDs are packed in X country in a certain manner, and they are distributed and they're transported, and then they go on the assembly line, and they are flowing across the assembly line as supply chain management. So the car is, as the container moves along the line, along the assembly line, a car comes to birth, basically. So that is the idea of logistics. Logistics is not an industry as such. Logistics is a service.
Yes, it is. And this is what I was asking about. What I meant here exactly is that as a logistic hub, it can really serve the industrial areas, but at the same time, it can serve the passage of those ships and that are crossing.
Container transshipment hubs. Container transshipment hubs is a mainly, when you look at the container ship sizes today, we are talking about ships that can carry up to 23,000 containers, TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units. This kind of size will not be easily calling every port. I mean, there are ports like, for example, like Beirut is a small port. It cannot accommodate such massive ships. There is various ports that cannot accommodate very big ships. So what they do is that they use the trunk and the sideline concept. But the trunk line is the main line trading, say, between Rotterdam and Singapore. And alongside, it is passing into places like Damietta, like Port Said, which are big ports that can accommodate big ships. But then these big ships are serving small ports like the ports in the Black Sea, which have no draft, which have no capacity. They are serving ports in North Africa, which are also small and are not capable of handling such massive sizes. Because don't forget, it is not just the draft of the ship, it is the container cranes that go along with it. I mean, if a ship is 23,000 containers, you need a massive crane to handle the containers, or several of them. So in that respect, yes, it is, of course, Port Said is an ideal location. And in fact, we also have Damietta, which has been functioning for the last 30 years as one of the major container transshipment hubs in Egypt. So container hub, yes, container transshipment is, of course, also very essential. And it's a very attractive logistical type of business for any shipping line.
So, aside from the industrial area and aside of the logistic one, let me take your opinion of how this area is vital, or it is, as we can say, important for to the world. So we're speaking here about an area that serves the whole world. We're speaking here about an area that is supposed to be contributing to us. How, from your point of view, are we maximizing the benefit of the location from your point of view, aside of what we said?
Well, we are still a long way to maximizing the benefits of this thing. First of all, we must understand that we have a changing world. The world is changing. Europe is changing tremendously after Brexit. The British will be seeking other alternatives to use for their economic strength, and they will, of course, be returning to the Commonwealth. Now, returning to the Commonwealth means that they will need to do more and be more involved in Africa. Where is the hub of Africa? It is Egypt. And when you talk about the African Commonwealth and you talk about COMESA and the African Commonwealth countries are very much the same countries. So by being involved with Egypt, Britain is benefiting tremendously out of Egypt, because Egypt, between Commonwealth, Africa and COMESA, is the common denominator. So it disqualifies Egypt to becoming a major Africa free zone area, because it will not only service the COMESA countries or the African Commonwealth, it will also serve all the other African countries equally and with the same strength. In fact, it will also serve Europe. It will also serve places like the Chinese, Japan, everybody who wants to enter Africa and go through distribution of cargoes and purchase of raw materials from Africa. Their ideal location is Egypt. So that is one concept. The other concept is, of course, that by being close in proximity to Europe and with the agricultural revolution we are witnessing at the moment, I'm sure you've been reading on the papers how much the agricultural exports have expanded and increased. Well, we are nowhere there yet. We are just starting. So we got a long way to go to build up a real strong position. However, if we have good, strong transit exports into Europe, we are closer, so we get a better shelf life on our fresh produce, which means longer shelf life, better money, more fresh cargo. So there is a lot to be, I mean, we still have a long way to go to build up a real major maritime hub in Egypt. And I can tell you for a fact that Egypt qualifies today to becoming the world's largest maritime hub, without any doubt.
When we come back from this report, I need to ask you here, what do we need in order to reach what you are speaking about? But first, let me take the report.
Okay.
And before continuing on with our discussion, let's take our second report, that Egypt's diversified economic resources contribute to face COVID-19 crisis. Let's watch.
Egypt's Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala Said, said that the Egyptian economy has managed to face the COVID-19 crisis due to its structural diversity. Egypt's Minister of Planning and Economic Development, Dr. Hala Said, said that on Sunday. The minister stated that the results of the economic and social reform program initiated by the Egyptian government in 2016 have made the Egyptian economy resilient against the crisis. The reform program saw an improvement in all indicators of economic performance before the coronavirus crisis. She highlighted that the country saw its economic growth rate reach 5.6% from July to December 2019-2020. Its unemployment rate decreased to about 8% from October to December 2019-2020, an average inflation rate reaching 5% from July to March 2019-2020. And foreign exchange reserves rise to cover 8.5 months of imports on March 2020. The Minister of Planning and Economic Development also indicated that the non-oil trade balance deficit decreased by 24%, in addition to an increase in net foreign direct investment by 19%. There was also an increase in remittances from Egyptians working abroad by 13%, and a decrease in deficit relative to output to 8.2%. Said highlighted the 373 preemptive measures undertaken to confront the pandemic, with the participation of 70 responsible parties from February 24th until now, targeting the sectors most exposed to risks. The minister added that among these measures is the allocation of £100 billion to finance the comprehensive plan to confront the pandemic, tax exemptions, the provision of liquidity and other incentives. These came in addition to increasing the Ministry of Health's budget by 100% and launching the online application Egypt Health to provide information related to the pandemic.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Engineer Sherin. And as we were speaking, that the new Suez Canal is considered a value added to the national economy, and we aim to transfer this area from just a shipping channel to a full commercial area, and more, as you were speaking about what we were dreaming about. My question before the report was, from your opinion, how to reach what we really aspire for?
Well, we have, I say the political administration has inherited a lot of very bad legislations, very, what shall I say, obstructive legislations from old regimes. To give you an example, some of these laws are dating back to 1940 and 1939. Of course, we are almost a century away, but we are still implementing those laws. This kind of legislation needs to be changed. We need to show more freedom. We need to show more flexibility in dealing with our investors. And of course also in showing confidence in our own national investors.
I guess that the president has started with, or they started with amending some of the legislation through implementing the one-stop stop, and facilitating some of the procedures. And of course, definitely, we will move on with other amendments. But
we need to move fast. I mean, the president, when he first took over, he said, I don't need to walk, I don't need to run, I need to jump, because we are way behind in our economy, in our health services and everything. That is when he took over the post as president. Now, we need to do the same with maritime transport. Unfortunately, we have a very massive setback with maritime transport, and maritime transport is under the banner of the Minister of Transport. And frankly speaking, I do not envy the Minister of Transport one bit. He's got such a massive load on his shoulders. Railways, underground, you name it. And all this will only give him, I mean, there's only 24 hours in the day, and I don't think this man sleeps. Frankly, there is definitely need for some diversification. There is need for specialization, and there is also an urgent need for legislation change, and a major legislation change, to allow more ships to come into Egypt and fly the Egyptian flag, to restructure the maritime transport sector in generally, the port management mentalities, the Egyptian registration mentalities. For example, we have a very big potential of becoming like Panama, where Panama and Liberia are flying the biggest fleets in the world. But there's not a single Panamanian on any single ship that flies the Panama Canal, a Panamanian flag, or a Liberian for that matter. Why? This is what you call flags of convenience, or free flags. Now, this is very important for a country like Egypt, because we are sitting there, we are giving you the flag benefits, and we are getting a partial amount of money in return. Small as it may be, but when you have a big volume, this becomes a big amount. That is number one. Number two, when we talk about supplies and you're talking about one-stop shop and legislations, a one-stop shop means that you go into the Suez Canal and then you call and you say, okay, I want to repair my radar, I want to fix a burnt motor, I want to supply water, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. Singapore has done that fantastically well, because there is no restrictions as such. And when there is little restrictions, there is more flexibility. Unfortunately, our legislations, again, are very rigid. They will not allow that. Fancy Singapore making $150 billion a year on supplies, giving like, buying some bunkers, or buying some fresh fruits, or getting some spare parts and so on.
Actually, the one-stop shop was made for regulating the procedures and facilitating the procedures of, or for rather for investors, in order to be able to facilitate their investments in that area. This is exactly what I meant with the one-stop shop.
Right.
So
right.
That had to do with legislation that are regulating the area. This is what I was speaking about.
Right. No, my understanding of a one-stop shop is one place where the ship goes and gets everything in a single place.
That's because you are an engineer. This is the perspective of an engineer.
Well, you see, the legislation, again, I dare say that, and I'm proud to say that, and I'm also a bit, I would not call ashamed, but I'm depressed to say that at the same time. There are certain countries like the Emirates, for example, they are continuously updating their maritime legislations, and that is why you find places like Dubai and Jebel Ali and Abu Dhabi are booming and making a lot of profits because of the legislation that is very flexible and it attracts people there. It is regrettable to say that all the lawyers and all the people who are actually laying those legislations are Egyptians, Egyptian lawyers.
Actually,
and it is proud to say that Egyptians are being used for their expertise in other countries, but it is shameful to say that this massive knowledge is not being utilized by our own country.
yes.
That is what I'm really concerned about. Legislation will mean that if I come into a port and I need to repair, I need to take a major repair, then immediately I will go in and will apply. I will get it on the spot. I will get my workshop on board. I will get my spare parts transported. I will get my supplies done. I will get my rubbish taken off the ship. Everything. This is the one-stop shop.
This is from the engineer point of view.
No.
So we're speaking here about the digitalization of the process and facilitating it through the transforming these issues into more easier procedures, right?
Yes, but again, without proper and flexible legislation, doesn't matter how much you digitalize it.
Then you're speaking here, you're addressing here the new or the upcoming Parliament.
Well, the Parliament will only pass a legislation, but somebody has got to suggest the legislation first.
They are supposed to be doing that also.
Well, you see, this is the whole thing. We need to not just concentrate on our Suez Canal, but we need also to concentrate on Egyptian ports. At the moment, we need to unify the umbrella under which Egyptian ports are sitting. To give you a small example, if you look at the Suez Bay, North Suez Bay, you have 3 ports in that bay. You have Port Tawfiq, and that is under the umbrella of the Ministry of Transport. You have Zaytiyah Port, which is under the umbrella of the Ministry of Petroleum. And you have Adabiya Port, which is under the Ministry of, under the free zone, the Suez Canal Economic Zone. Now, how can you, in the proximity of 3 miles or maybe less than 3 miles, 3 ports are located, and each of them is following a different ministry, each of them reports to a different entity, each of them has its own legislations, its own rules, and so on. And they're all under the same umbrella. Now, if you tell me that I have to bring a ship in from Port Tawfiq into Adabiya, then, oh, very simple. Oh, wait a minute now. No, we are one port, and we are another, and they are another port. So you have to pay port dues here, and you have to pay port dues there, and you're only traveling close to 1.5 miles from one port to the other. It is not right. It does not reflect correctly on the outside world, and that is exactly what I'm saying. What we need to do is we need to restructure the maritime transport section completely, and the Suez Canal is instrumental in a thing like this. Suez Canal have got the mesurage people, what you call, they classify the ships and they measure the volumes of the ships and so on. If this is developed into an entity, then you can fly your free flag and you can make millions on it, on one department within the Suez Canal Authority. And supplies or crew changes, for example. If the Philippines is earning more than $50 billion a year in transfers of crew members of their money to their families in the Philippines, it's $50 billion. Why can't we get the Egyptians, and we are more central, so for a ship owner passing the Suez Canal, it's much easier for him to recruit an Egyptian rather than to recruit a Filipino who's going to be flown halfway across the world and cost so much money in travel expenses.
Right.
So we have so many benefits, you can't believe it.
Let me here recall what we were speaking about during the break or during the report time, and you were quoting our president speaking, and when he was attending this
UK-Africa?
Yes.
Yes, the UK-Africa summit was last January in London. And obviously, because at that time Egypt was just handing over the statesmanship of African Union, our president was attending, and during the discussions, I did not hear him say that myself, but I heard from the audience that the Egyptian president is hoping and dreaming to have his country as a major maritime hub.
Yes.
On several occasions after that, a comment to this call, or a comment to this quote of the Egyptian president, was that the Egyptians do not seem to realize that their dreams, not just the president, but all the Egyptians combined, no matter how much they dream, and whatever ceiling their dreams take them to, it is way below the potential of the country. One person said, if you are
It just
talking...
needs the right person to mobilize and use their proper means in order to be able to utilize those potentials, right?
That is very true, and I remember on another occasion a top official in the UK was discussing with a Minister of Transport, a former Minister of Transport in London again, and he said, Mr. Minister, if you call your country's dust as gold, you are being very unjust to your country. Your country's dust is diamonds and not gold.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
It is up to you to dig it out.
Yes.
We are the richest country in the world without debate. And I can say that openly, and I can challenge anybody in the world who will say otherwise. We are the richest country in the world. Our riches have not been all discovered, but we definitely are the richest country in the world.
I have a few minutes, but here I need to ask you about this mega Suez Canal developmental project and this industrial area and this residential zone. And in your opinion, why the economic zone of the Suez Canal, along with the Suez Canal tunnels in Ismailia and Port Said and those other areas, they are, or they have to move on and accelerate with the work in order to avoid competitiveness?
Well, let me say what I have told various officials in various places, especially in the Suez Canal Authority. The chairman of the Suez Canal Authority reminds me of a long-distance swimmer who is the best, the world champion. And somehow they tell him, go and cross the English Channel. And when he dives and comes out again, he finds that both his legs are tied to anchors. And he's supposed to cross the channel with those anchors tied to his legs. We have legislation problems, and we have red tape problems, auditor bodies of various types. These two will always restrict any function to go fast. It does not mean that we should not have proper audit, we should not have proper observation. No, we should have everything, we should have control and so on. But we need to adjust our controls in such a manner that it will allow any official to go full ahead without worrying about the fact that, oh, wait a minute, I give this ship owner a rebate, so somebody is going to go and report me to the bodies, to the auditors or whatever, state auditors or whatever they call them, and at the end of the day, I will have a problem. You see, this makes people a bit shaky. Now, as of course on top of the legislation faults which need to be. On the other front, we have various countries which are really competing with us on a very fast and flexible tunnel. To quote an example, the port of Haifa is competing with the port of Port Said, the port of Eilat is competing with the port of Sokhna, and all this needs to be carefully observed, carefully studied, and we need to go full ahead and see what are we doing right to improve it, and what are we doing wrong to correct it. This is the most important thing.
No, let me here repeat what you were speaking about, because this is important. There are some ports that are competing with us, and we're speaking here about about neighbors.
Yes, exactly. And that's the danger of it, because then if you are talking about, okay, we have an advantage over those two ports, even if they go in, even if they start making their own hubs and everything, because first of all, the distribution between Europe and Haifa compared to the distribution between Alexandria and Haifa and between say Piraeus and Haifa, we are 1 day shorter in sea passage, which means that we are 1 day earlier than they are. So it's better for anybody to use Alexandria or use Port Said as a hub rather than go all the way to Haifa and deviate for 2 days, 1 day back there and 1 day back. And then when they're relaying their cargo to Europe, they are 2 days instead of 1 day. So we have an advantage there. The other advantage we have, of course, is our location in Africa, our closer and better proximity to Africa. So these 2 points are in our advantage. But we must capitalize on them, and very quickly. Time is not on our side.
So just to give a conclusion, we should capitalize on the advantages that you have, but we really also need to work on legislations, and we really need to work on the red tapes.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is absolutely essential that we break the red tape and we free the legislations. That will give us the flexibility to be world competitive market. If we do those 2, I can guarantee you from my experience in shipping and in hubbing in ports, I can guarantee you inside 5 years, Egypt will without doubt become the world's largest maritime hub.
With God's will, we will. With God's will, we will. Unfortunately, my time is out here and I have to end it here. I was so interested in the input that you put here, sir. Engineer Sherin Naggar, International Transport and Shipping Consultant. We thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I guess we will be continuing on with celebrations of throughout this month of the 6th of October. Tomorrow is the 6th of October. Tomorrow we are giving a day for this glorious and important historical and victory in our lives. So please stay tuned for us tomorrow and with our celebrations all over the day. Many thanks for watching.